Students, in my last video, I have explained you about the three system of revenue collection. Permanent settlement, Mehalwari system, Munro system or Roytwari system. Now we will understand the comparison of these three systems. So let's start with the permanent settlement. Permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. Mehalwari system was introduced in 1822 and Roytwari system was introduced in 1820. Now next is about the kind of revenue. In permanent settlement, revenue was fixed. In Mehalwari system, revenue was not fixed. Estimated revenue of each plot was added to the total revenue of the village. And in Roytwari system, revenue was not fixed. Each field was carefully measured and assessed. Next comparison is about who collected the revenue. In permanent settlement, zamindar were ordered to collect the revenue. In Mehalwari system, instead of zamindar, the revenue was collected by the village headman. And in Roytwari system, Britishers collected the revenue. Next is about the area where these were introduced. So permanent settlements was introduced in Bihar, Bengal and Orissa, and Mehalwari system was introduced in northwestern frontier, Punjab, Gangetic Valley, etc. And Roytwari system was introduced in Madras, Bombay, etc. And the last is about the ownership. So in permanent settlement, zamindar were the owner of the land. In Mehalwari system, peasant were the owner of the land, and in Roytwari system, peasant were the owner of the land. So it was the comparison of these three systems. Now we know the differences between all the three systems of revenue collection. We know that Roytwari system was also introduced by the Britisher, but soon a problem arose. What was that? Let's find out. All was not well because the revenue official wanted to increase the income from the land, hence they fixed very high revenue. But the peasants were not able to pay the revenue. The riots fled the countryside and village became deserted in many regions. Students, under the Roytwari system, peasants were charged with a very high rate of tax. They started deserting the countryside as it became impossible for them to pay tax. Many of the company officers were of the view that the new system of collection will help peasants in becoming rich, but this never happened. Britishers were not solely depend on the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes. They levied, but they also decided to use the crops of the country in order to earn profit in the trading business. This we will study further. Now next is crops for Europe. By the 18th century, Britishers tried to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo in various parts of India. They also forced the cultivators to grow various other crops such as jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in Uttar Pradesh, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras. So basically, the more emphasis was laid on cultivation of indigo. But why was it so important to cultivate indigo? First of all, you should know what indigo is and why it is used. So, basically indigo is a plant from which a blue powder is derived, and this is used to dye clothes in blue, or as we say, indigo color. Indigo was so important because it can only be grown in tropical climate, so climate of India was suitable for its growth. India was the main exporter of indigo. In India, Kalamkari print, which was created by the weavers of Andhra Pradesh, also used this rich blue color. In this slide, you can see two images are there. Downside is Kalamkari print and upside is a floral cotton print designed and produced by William Morris, a famous poet and artist of 19th century Britain. There is one thing common in the two prints. Both use a rich blue color, commonly called indigo. It is likely that the blue dye used in the Morris print in 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plant cultivated in India. And India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world that time.